The reason that we're taking the time to really look at the different elements of SAFER is because studies have shown that it is a vital piece to creating quality social emotional learning activities that have real outcomes. So let's take a look at a definition of each different piece of SAFER. These definitions are from a paper from the University of Minnesota. This paper is available to you in the course room. So SAFER stands for sequenced, active, focused, explicit, and reflection. Let's dive a little bit deeper into each one of these. Sequenced SEL activities involve a series of steps designed to help youth reach a level of mastery of a certain idea. So you can break down skills into smaller learning steps and opportunities to connect learning to real life situations. So while there might be some curriculum that you can utilize, it's not essential. For example, you can take the time to think about the smaller skills that are needed to effectively resolve conflict, or perhaps take the time to think about what different skills are needed to really be able to label feelings. So one example of this might be if we're talking about self-awareness and having the kids think about how they can label feelings, we might start off with a hypothetical situation with somebody else. So we'll do a read aloud and we talk to them about, can you explain to me how this person is feeling in this moment? What word would you use to describe it? And so that feels a little easier because it's somebody else. And so they're getting that first skill of labeling an emotion. Next, we might move to looking, at a hypothetical situation still, but something more related to us. So talking about ahead of time, how does it feel when you are outside playing and you want to use a soccer ball, but the other people playing soccer won't let you use it? How do you think that would make you feel? And so now we've moved to a situation that's very relevant in their life, but they aren't feeling that feeling right now, so it isn't as immediate. So we're working on the ways. We started with hypothetical, naming that emotion that that character's feeling. Then we moved on to a hypothetical of their real life. What emotion would they be feeling in that moment? Then we can go to the next step, where it's really in the moment. Say that soccer ball disagreement happens. How do you feel right now? What feeling word would you say that you felt? And they might say, I felt angry. Great, so that's another step. The next step we might say is, what does your body feel like? How does anger feel? And they might say, well, my heart's beating really fast and I'm clenching my fists. Great. So then we would go on from there, right? There's many steps to becoming more and more self-aware and labeling our feelings. But you can see there that it was sequenced. We start with something hypothetical that wasn't necessarily tied to their real life. Then we thought about another hypothetical, but something that was more relevant to them. And then going to in the moment. So that's sequence. We're thinking about what small steps might happen. If we're thinking about resolving conflict, it might start by thinking about how kids say that they are upset, then giving them different steps, then having them practice, then having them do it with educator facilitating disagreements or conflict resolution, and then maybe finally moving to them themselves doing it. And so that sequence piece is really looking step through step, step by step, breaking down a big skill into smaller skills. The next piece is active. Kids are active by nature, right? They're not going to be as interested in an activity if they don't get to have some sort of product at the end, or they're creating something hands-on or a way to practice a skill. So when we're thinking about active steps, we want to think about what is the hands-on activity that's actually going to happen. Will they get to create a product? Will they get to act out with one another or something? Will they get to play a game? How is it hands-on? How does it allow the kids to interact, role play, or create to make sure that they are staying engaged with the concept? So one of the examples from the course room is Alexander and the Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. And so in that activity, The kids are engaged because there's going to be a read aloud and there's going to be back and forth questions throughout the activity. The reflection activity is also going to get them a little more involved. But during the activity in our example, the kids are going to be interacting with the mood meter, which you'll see an example of later. And so the kids are going to be able to stand up and point to where Alexander is on the mood meter. How is he feeling? Is he feeling jealous? Is he feeling sleepy? And how do those emotions look different within the context of the mood meter? So they'll be up, pointing, answering questions, engaging with one another. The other example on the course room is a mask making activity. So thinking about, are they creating? How are they engaging? How are they keeping active? The next piece of SAFER is focused. So focused learning of SEL skills requires time and a plan. Kind of is similar to the sequence piece where you're working on small skills, but you need to make sure that there's a goal in mind. That goal might be the goal, the SEL goal for your whole program. It might be the social emotional learning goal for that month. But making sure that you have something focused in mind and that the activities that you're planning are thinking about that goal and making sure they are related to it. So did you devote sufficient time to that SEL goal? So in my Alexander and the horrible, terrible, no good, very bad day example, we're making sure that the goal is to help children identify emotions they're feeling and then giving them the words to say that. And that's an overarching programmatic goal, and this is just one small step in it. And so the activity is going to help the group identify new feeling words and even connect them to their own personal experience. So this is just one small piece, but it's very focused. We walked in with the goal. We know that we want them to work on feeling words and identifying them within the mood meter. So we are devoting the right amount of time to that and making sure it's still our focus of the lesson. Next is E, explicit. That means that you are very clear about what your goals are. So thinking back to what is the goal, SEL goal for the program, what's the SEL goal for this unit, for this month, for this activity. Everybody should be aware of this goal. The program, the staff, even the kids. Right, of course we might rephrase these goals a little bit differently, but it needs to be clear on what the goal is in each space. These goals can be developed based on curriculum available in Massachusetts for pre-K or using the Illinois state standards, which you'll see later. It can be about self-awareness or maybe digging down a little bit deeper. It could be about something from the emotional intelligence quiz that you'll take later, but it should be very explicit. So in my example of the read aloud, we're taking a piece from the Illinois SEL standards. And the reason we use these is because they are for all age ranges rather than Massachusetts just being pre-K at the moment. So from the Illinois standards, I'm working for the kids to identify emotions, name the emotions felt by characters and stories, and describe a time that they felt the same way a story character felt. And so we're very explicit about those goals. And when we're explicit about goals, it makes it a lot easier to plan a lesson. So I think that's always one of the best places to start. What is the goal of this activity or this system that we're putting in place? Finally, we have reflection. The reflection piece is actually unique to the University of Minnesota. The SAFE approach is used by a lot of different organizations, but reflection is one extra piece that the University of Minnesota Extension School has added. And it's important because it helps kids internalize the social and emotional skills that they've been practicing. The purpose is to help them think about what they've just experienced, consider their feelings, and then connect what they're learning with their lives. And that reflection piece is really important. That's the time to reflect, to discuss, and to really connect to what they're learning. A couple great reflection activities that you can see up on the screen. If you have a few minutes, that's okay. Just have them stand in a circle and ask a group question. You might say, have you ever felt like Alexander did in the book? And if so, like what was similar? How did you feel? You can also say, what is one thing that you learned today that you might think about when you go home tonight? And if there's a little more time, there's some great resources that are available in the article that we've attached in the course room. The reflection piece that I utilized for my example was that after we'd finished discussing the book, we're going to look at the words that we've put on the mood meter. And so at this point, I'm envisioning that this is one of the later steps in our look at the mood meter. And so there's going to be some words that are more joyful, some words that are more angry or sad, and we're going to go over it as a group, what each word means. And then the kids are going to choose a feeling word to act out with a partner. And they can act out the emotion, or they can describe a way that a time that they felt that way. And then their partner is going to need to guess the right feeling word. And so this is just a quick activity, but allows them to practice what they just learned and really solidify the understanding of the way they practiced it. So SAFER: S, sequenced; A, active; F, focused; E, explicit; R, reflective. These pieces are so important because there's been studies done that show that after-school programs that are developing personal and social skills, so social emotional learning skills, they found that program staff who followed these recommended practices were more effective than those who didn't. The study also showed that these different elements are more important in combination with one another rather than just independent pieces. So, for example, just because something's sequenced doesn't mean that it's going to be effective, but it needs to have all those other pieces in it. It should be sequenced, it should be active, there should be explicit goal that has focused time on it, and there should be built-in time for reflection. So like I said, throughout this course, you're really going to be focusing on these different pieces. We're going to move on next to looking at some examples of explicit goals through the emotional intelligence quiz and the state standards. Once you've looked through those, you're going to start thinking about what explicit skill would I like my kids to work on. And so we'll go through these different pieces. If you need a reminder about what any pieces of SAFER means, feel free to look at the University of Minnesota article or any of our sample lesson plans to make it more clear or to remind you.